This benefits AT&T more than anyone else, and nobody should be surprised about that.
I think a couple of things to mention there is with respect to Verizon and CBRS. Verizon doesn't talk. They'll never publicly say anything about CBRS. They don't publicly say anything about anything. AT&T seems to be the only company willing to stick their neck out and say something. And of course, when they did, the squeaky wheel got the grease.
Well, it's because they're operating from a position of weakness, and then also when you're the industry leader, there's not a whole lot that's going to be done to quote unquote help you anyway. So, I mean, I don't think if Verizon is going to come out doing a whole lot of complaining. I mean, it really hasn't. Even during the downtimes, 2020, 2021, 2022, when things had got really rough for the company, you didn't really hear Verizon going to the government saying, hey, we need A, B, and C. Hey, can you help us do the, can you do? I mean, that just hasn't been how Verizon's operated. It's not the first time Verizon's operated from a position of quote unquote weakness from a spectrum standpoint. They did it all throughout LTE, and they still dominated the LTE era from a network performance standpoint. They really did. And it's because they outbuilt everybody. The spectrum is very, very important, but it's not the only thing. If you can also build more access points than everybody else. And that's what they did.
The only thing my only reservation about the power levels for CBRS, it'll never go full power unless the entire thing is rebanded. The power can be increased from what it currently stands at. Like that's perfectly doable, and that'll probably turn CBRS into an absolute game changer with respect to a macro band. Right? I mean, it's really going to make a huge difference to indoor propagation and full scale range. I mean, if you can make it 80% of what C-band is, what are we talking about, dog? We're talking about spectrum that Verizon spent a few $1 billion on, and you're going to turn that into 80% of C-band? Holy cow, right? And that's just if the power is increased, not full power, right? Full power, I mean, that's I don't think it's actually possible in the current iteration of CBRS. With AT&T's proposal, I think it becomes possible to go full power. But even then, and still, CBRS is still, it's going to be focused on unlicensed. They're going to be re-auctioning things in a different way, especially what currently stands from 3.1 to 3.3. That moves up, and that obviously is going to hold huge value, and AT&T would be very aggressive in that.
I think
and and the conversation you and me had the other day was, that fixes their DoD problem. If the band gets rebanded, right?
My God, tech guy, you are relentless, man. You are relentless in these comments, man. I hear you talking. Go ahead, Sneed.
Oh, so like for this one from Tech Guy 32, he said Verizon only deployed CBRS and millimeter wave widely since they were spectrum starved until C-band deployment. Okay, so when someone's thirsty, they drink water.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Captain Obvious. I mean, that's kind of what I said. And again, I mean, just being funny. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm just saying.
No, not at all. We're teasing. It's not.
That's yeah, like that's what I was saying before. This is not the first. That's not the first time that Verizon has been in that position where they've been not the industry leader in spectrum. It was like AT&T that had more spectrum than Verizon in a lot of places, and yet they still didn't win the LTE era. So I think Verizon's spectrum portfolio now is stronger than it ever has been in its company's history. And so because of that, I think they're operating from a position of, confidence that they've got the ability to be able to serve the country better than it ever has. And according to the data that we have available, specifically Root Metrics, I mean, shoot, man, I mean, they're not even finished with their C-band build, and they won the country. They won most of the metros like they always do. And with respect to the states, they're neck and neck with AT&T now. Second quarter of this year, first quarter of next year, they'll probably pass AT&T. So I don't think Verizon's in a bad shape at all, even if CBRS doesn't go full power or if the power doesn't get increased. It's going to be, reformed over to 5G anyway. So will PCS, so will AWS. It's probably going to get reformed, and I wouldn't be surprised if US Cellular or other spectrum auctions come available, and Verizon's probably going to be active in those things as well. So I don't think Verizon's shaking in their boots from a spectrum standpoint, a spectrum portfolio standpoint. I think they seem to be very, very confident with the stuff that they have today.